in our music video, like the scenes I chose, there's scenes that have that big X. That
Uh,
X is on the Mexican side of the border, right? There's a point where I'm in a field and it's right behind me. That's like the baseball field that I grew up playing baseball on. And then
uh,
there's the border highway. And then there's like the wall, right? And it's like, it's always, we always laughed at like, Trump making the wall because it's like there's always been something there for us,
uh,
right? And like growing up, I was taught to believe everything is possible, anything is possible. The power to move mountains, the will to change the world, faith being my inherent, so I use it to shape the world. Like those, like are values that were taught to me. Like I was taught, like, yo, you can have a dream, you can follow your dream, you can make your dream happen, and like this idea that faith, like even the connectedness between faith and dreams, right? Like faith gives you the wherewithal to make dreams a reality,
uh,
whereas dreams show faith what's possible, like
yeah.
what could be, right? Like they work so hand in hand. So for me, childhood was like one about like following your dreams, but it had to go through education, right? And then the idea of faith that like you can really shape the world with your belief, right?
Uh,
And it's not a belief in the blind, it is the power to move mountains, right? So like a lot of what I'm talking about is a critique of just, I mean, obviously the loss of dreams as you get older, but I think it's also living in a, you know, at the time a pre-fascist, well, I guess depends on who you're talking about, right? Pre-fascist world or a fascist world or a world that, even like that's just driven by capitalistic pressures. You aren't allowed to live your dream anymore. It's like, or for many people, like dreams aren't even a possibility. Like dream deferred, right? Langston Hughes about like, um, so it's like the story about the border and trying to make sense of that, and my understanding of dreams and like what I think I'm critiquing in the piece, they're so tied together. Like it's inseparable. So me as a New York artist, I didn't film my part here. I waited to go to El Paso to film my part because I knew that like that just spoke more to what I was trying to like talk
yeah.
about, you know.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I was just thinking about what you're saying about that space, right? Like like where I was when I was standing between, because that's it's like a between space, like that's where 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 the they decide which side you can go.
yeah,
So like that's almost in my case, our community is that in South Africa. We don't we are like we are the in between people. It's like a like and I try to explain this to my wife about how the idea of nationhood, the idea of race, is also like you got to choose a side. But then when you in between, when
mm,
you like in the situation that we in, like you constantly um don't fit, you
yeah,
know. So that's a weird space to like when I was standing there and seeing my wife and my kids is like also that whole feeling of like fuck,
mm,
it doesn't matter even though like now you're in this other space and this other unless you claim even if you claim
yeah.
a they're like go for
If they
your
don't recognize you, you don't count.
yeah exactly. So the frivolousness of it, is also just like a hell of I mean I didn't none of that's in my rhyme, but like just this idea of dreaming something new into existence. How do you actually manifest that new idea being confronted by this violence or this force that like yeah.
Well, I think, I mean, what I got from your verse is that at some point our childish notions and dreams are crushed by the fact that society is like beating it out of us almost,
Yeah.
right? Like, whether it be actively and aggressively through
Mm,
like let's say the police state, or even, I've been thinking about how like fascism in this country is going to be very different. We already live it because you can have like a 1 square mile area in downtown LA where like literally there's like tanks in the streets, and like people like, and then 2 miles over people are meeting for breakfast and matcha, right? And like getting out of yoga, right? Like,
really, yeah.
and that like this fascism in this country or authoritarianism in this country will be like you have to make a decision what you're going to do. You have to make a decision how much you're willing to sacrifice, because it'd be very easy just to live your brunch and matcha
Yeah,
life, like and not have to not have to deal with that if you're lucky enough not to have to
yeah.
deal with that. The darker your
And
skin
so
is, obvious.
someone was telling me that they don't think that actually he works for Homeland Security. The guy that told me he was like, I don't think that because I was saying like, yo, do you think that the people will ever rise up against what's going on? And he was like, yo, to be honest with you, after COVID, unless people's money is affected, unless they can't access their bank account, nothing's changing in them. They'll just print more money. I was like,
Well,
damn, that is.
well, but the thing is, I think that's where we're headed. Like, it's like this, this regime is a regime of chaos, and I think they're in place to destroy the economy
Uh,
and to because for them actually at this point they're just getting they're positioning their pieces in place so that when China is the power, they're making lots of money.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like they don't really care about like
yeah.
those global questions. They care
Yeah,
about like
yeah, and also this
maintaining
illegal
control,
operation. Yeah.
right?
I don't give a shit.
Yo, man, I can't even imagine what your kids, I mean, went through that, like, because there's this lack of security.
Yeah.
I was always, and it not until recently, there's a lot of, like, Latin artists who have reinterpreted, because before growing up, it was like, I was never Mexican. I went to school with Mexicanos. I was a gringo. I'm a gringo, right? I'm a white person for them, or like, an American, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, to be an American of Latin descent, Mexican descent in the United States, depending on where you're at, you also don't, you don't equate. You're not the same. Now, I grew up
Yeah.
in El Paso, which is about 85% Mexican American, so I always felt the same. But there is always this kind of in between, and now there's this new concept of being like, it's not that I'm 50-50, I'm actually 200%, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm 100% American and I'm 100% Mexican, right?
Uh,
Like it's like a reshifting of like really claiming both.
mm,
What I imagine is like, I mean, you yourself. I feel like this piece is informed by your understanding of who your people were,
mm,
right? Your ancestry, right?
yeah.
And how much of that is tied through already having to fight for freedom once before.
Yeah. Yeah. And exactly. And this like the importance of because there's this frivolousness attached to dreaming, right?
Yeah.
And then like the because the actual power of dreaming is like they fear that in in every realm of their existence. They fear people's if people veer slightly from what they put in front of them, they like, oh shit,
Oh yeah. Oh
we're
yeah.
in trouble now. And so dreaming is a big part of that. And so that's like when we had that conversation about like, this is what the topic is. I was like, how do you revisit when dreams were just in your in like when I speak about my sister and like when my mom told me that afterwards, I forgot that. She told me, actually, you actually named your sister. And then when because I just told her that I dreamt about my daughter and her approaching me in a dream. She was like, it's not the first time, you know.
Mm.
And so
Mm.
like that was like again an affirmation of like the power that dreams could have within our to determine like within the society now to like take note of
Mm.
what what is conjured up in those dreams. And it's not just like it's like and I didn't even mention, but it's like for me, it's like that messages from ancestors, that conversation that yeah, that
Well, I mean, I think okay, dreams are tied to the conscious world and the subconscious world,
yeah,
right? And like, we've been, when you think about just how, there's a line where I talk about blood. It's like breaking the habits of our blood. So it's like I think my piece is also informed by this idea of blood memory, right? That's like there are traumas that are passed down through our genetics, through our blood, right? And like in the piece I talk about having to like and maybe not directly, but I am thinking about observing certain behaviors like let's say amongst my brothers and I, where I'm
Mm,
like, oh, maybe I got to do differently with my wife, right? Or like, maybe I got to be do differently as a parent if I was a parent, not a parent, but you know what I mean, like, it's like we're gonna pass those things which often probably like we hated the most, which were most destructive or most problematic in our lives, if we don't do the due diligence to like question and reshape and reframe,
mm.
right? Um, so it's like the idea that dream is tied to the subconscious, but it's also like it's very much tied to your everyday actions,
Yeah,
right? Like, uh,
that's what it is. I mean, like I was, when I did those reconnect the string conversations with some of the b-boys from back in the day, and I was surprised at how much, like, like the people say stuff like, "Yo, one day I want to be," you know,
mm,
like I want to put up this piece. Like for example, these guys, group of guys that I asked, they were going to do a mural, and as a b-boy crew, they pooled their money. But then they were explaining to me how they not only dreamt the idea of what they're going to do with this mural, they also planned it out, right? Like this guy's going to stand watch. He's going to organize his dad's car. They're going to, So it's like you have this dream, but you have the steps
mm,
to make that dream a reality. You know, and I was like, yo, I didn't even think that was because
mm.
when you're doing it, none of
No, yeah,
this.
oh yeah.
You were just like, yo,
But that's when like it's easy to like not fulfill your dreams or to like, it's like you got to prove it, you got to do it, you got to do it, right? So it's like dreams are cool and all, but if you don't take the action, like if you don't like do put the sweat and like the plan, just even the plan, right?
yeah.
Then it's like no one's gonna give it to you. Like no one's gonna come and like make what you want to have happen in reality. That will never happen. I've never known that to happen. In fact, you're gonna get set back, pushed down. You're gonna get tripped, and like, well, you're gonna have to get back up and like want to really do it so that you keep taking the next step, right? Or redoing the previous step if it didn't work, right? And then it's like, oh, okay, well then how am I going to do this differently,
Yeah.
right? You
And
know,
then it's just like the dream is actually a prelude to the creativity of what steps you need to take if it
uh,
doesn't materialize, right? Because you like every time you get because this I think like when you're saying people don't necessarily manifest their dream, they have this dream, but then they're like, it wasn't meant to be. Instead of like,
yeah,
yo, that path didn't work, but what if I try this? And if that, okay, then why not? You know what I mean? It's just like it's so closely tied to, and both of them are vilified. Like creativity is like, yo, fuck, don't come to me with that conversation about, But if you because and then like if you think of creativity as like again tied to innovation, like it's, if you say like this is an amazingly innovative person, that is given more respect than like, yo, this dude is extremely creative. That almost sound like he's a dreamer. He never does. It's like yo, he's
yeah.
innovative. It's like the
Well,
lack.
I think of the word prolific, right? Like to be prolific means that you're creating. I mean, like I would consider you prolific, brother. Like the amount of books you have, the amount of songs you've written, the amount of verses you write. Like you know what I mean? Like even if they weren't released,
Mm,
right? You've created these things and you're committed to continue creating things. There's lots of people who wait so long for things to be perfect and they
mm.
never release it or they never give it another life so they can move on to the next. I wish I could be more prolific because that means like you have to constantly be evolving to write that next piece.
But I think it's also the like the like to let your guard down that
Mm,
that you're not concerned so much about the judgment of
yeah,
people.
yeah,
The people have like a lot of times like, yo, why don't you just spend more time at it, like make it perfect? I'm like, yo, that's not why I create. Like the creation is burning to be put out.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, so it's like it's and again that's like again societal dictation of how it's supposed to look, right? What is considered really dope. You
Well,
know.
it's also then the dream is not something in the future. It's what you're doing. It's while you're pursuing
Mm.
it, right?
Yeah.
Like I actually think of this Aesop Rock line from a song. What's the name of the song? It's this awesome story. Like it's off Labor Days, and I remember the entire album is just like these weird like connections, language, phrases. Like it's like weirdly left center thing. And he has one song that's a storytelling song about this little girl who like, and he tells the story of her life at different points in her life, and she's an artist. But the second half of the chorus is like, you can dream a little dream or you can live a little dream. I'd rather live it because dreamers always chase but never get it.
Oh, damn.
Right? So it's like, you're living the dream.
Yeah.
You're
And
not,
then,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, for real. Because it's like, but then the question also, what is it? Never get it. You know what I mean? Because like, if it is the like the prize, the economics, the success, you know, then it's also like the dream itself and the the action itself is the outcome, right? It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, and this is the other thing that a friend
No.
of mine said this to me once. He was like, "Yo, why you worried, Emil? Like the CDs don't go rotten."
Wait.
He was a farmer. He was like, "Yo, why you worried? CDs don't go rotten." And I was like, I he said it. I was like, "Damn, that's funny as hell," because there's this drive, like you gotta sell it right now, like you gotta make the money. And then, like in retrospect, I'm like, I look at a song now, and I'm like, or even a book that I've written, I've actually gone back and like read redone certain sections, and like released like a second edition of it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know. And when I think of songs, I think of it in the same way. Like also, yo, you never really done. You know, it's one of the reasons I don't have tattoos because I'd like probably be completely like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because there's this I it has to be like perfect, you know. But then I want to go over it again and again and again. And I've seen this when I paint. I could be at the wall like for weeks, you know, and it would be like it would end up not being the original thing that I put up
Yeah, yeah.
because it's a new day, it's a new like idea that's flowing from the previous idea. You know, I mean, any creative person, I see that a lot in like people who like you're saying about this bassist guy. I was like when I listened to him, I was like, shit. Most people were like, yo, fuck, this is way out. you
Yeah,
know,
no, you can't. It's
this
hard to
is,
grasp, right? It's hard to hold on to.
you know.
But like, it's because he's that far ahead. He's that like, and you have to really be open to understanding that like where he has been and where he's going is like it's pretty amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the dream. The dream is the dream is limitless, you know.
I and a thing about when you talked about giving old writings new life, or it's like I even like my first album almost like 8 or 9 years afterwards, someone licensed all those songs for like this comedy special, right? And it's like they really just wanted the instrumentals.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was like, and he knew me as an artist. But it's crazy. It's like I got paid a nice little chunk of money, and
Mm,
it's a mutual. It's like it's a non-exclusive agreement. So it's like I still keep everything. I can do whatever I want with
yeah,
the
yeah.
track. But him and an artist, he's just like, yo, man, I need this original music, and I really love the nature of these beats. I'm like, yo, let's collaborate. So it's like or if you write, like for me, I've always said like my music is free, and sure, at times it may have been because I give it away for free. But I think it's more so because I never make music thinking that it has to make money
Uh-huh.
for me to make it. And I mean, literally, like, I mean, I could drop $500, $600 on a track. And that's with not even paying for a beat. That's if I'm lucky enough for the homie to work on the beat with me. Like, that's
Yeah,
just mixing and mastering, right?
yeah,
So that by the time that I release the song, I'm not, I mean, luckily I'm in a position because, I've
yeah,
got other things popping off that when I release the song, it's not about making the money back.
Yeah.
right? So then it's about like, well, what's going to be what measurement of success is going to lead to that. And for me, like for this song in particular, it was that I knew that if I put the plan together, we would have a music video and we would release it when I was in Cape Town
Yeah.
for last year's, hip hop is healing festival.
Yeah.
Like, and I visualized what success would mean like for me, and it's like sharing that video at the final school year concert,
Yeah.
right? Like that, I couldn't imagine a greater success, right? It's like, sure, maybe like if all those people had bought an album, like, okay, I sold 1,000 copies of the single, but like, what would that have really been, right? It's like it was better to like really connect with people, and a lot of people came up to me afterwards. People,
Yeah.
older people in particular, was like, I really like appreciate the message of that song,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, we get to decide. Um, well, I mean, but it's great because of dreams, right? Because we're dreaming, it's like we get to decide what's going to measure the success of that dream,
Yeah.
and it no longer has to be like, uh, breaking even, or viral success. It's like, what does that really, mean? Um, Maybe that's a cop out because I haven't achieved it, but also it's like I've seen people who have achieved it, and it doesn't necessarily get them any closer
Yeah.
to what they thought it would.
Yeah.
You know,
No, it's
there's
true.
got to be a balance, I guess, right? Because
Yeah.
if you don't release music to reach more people, then why do you do it, right?
And the thing is also like the idea of it finding the ears that that need to hear it at a specific point, right? You know, and then like this, even this conversation, like having the opportunity in retrospect to go back and like re-examine what was said, but also the bigger um, conversation of like other people that that have had dreams that have
Uh,
like, ah man, I had to walk away from it because I had to like take care of my, get married and have, family. And the thought of like there are also people that are in the middle of that, or at the like later point in life, revisit that dream, you know, or it finds them again, you know. And I was like, I've
mm.
been thinking about that a lot. Like people like, yeah, you already got this president award, and like, it's like, yeah, your life is over type of thing.
You've
And
done it
then,
all, Emil.
you
You've
know
done
what
it
I
all.
mean? That type of crap, right? And that isn't like exactly what you're saying. It isn't about that. It's about what are the lessons that you can learn. And I'm
Mm.
sure like once we like share a lot of this and share the music further for the rest of this month, there'll be other people that we can have these conversations, you know, that have also like, have a like, feel that, yeah, if only I, and then when they hear this, they're like, but why not?
Yeah.
What stops me from, and the version of it that I had in my head was like one version of it. Didn't, because I mean, people that when we signed a deal with Black Noise, like people are all like, yo, but you had this opportunity to sign a deal, we didn't, you know.
Hmm.
I'm like, so what's the big deal? It's not a it didn't stop me. Like there was one album. There's like Black Noise. There's like 14 others, and like
Yeah,
solo.
yeah, yeah,
There's like 15 others. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
And so like, what if I just say, I just give up now? I couldn't. It didn't. Wasn't successful. Then that'd be the end of the story, and all of the messages that's attached to songs, or the examination of like my own insecurities as a so-called colored kid, finding who am I through music, you know what I mean? And like that, like songs that I've written that have found ears in like faraway places to come to Cape Town. And I've heard there was a guy that did this. He came to find out about what's his name, Ashley Creel, and then I met him at the launch of the. He's from like Scotland or somewhere. His wife is from Cape Town because he came to Cape Town to like, based on the fact that the song was something that he was like, yo, I want to find out what's this about.
Yeah.
So it's like for me, those are the priceless stories.
Hmm.
And even like the conversation we're having now, like for me, that is the like the expansion of the song. Like the song is a
Mm.
seed, right? And like it's growing beyond that.
Well, I think there's also. I mean, we haven't talked about it, but there's like a dirty word, right? Like capitalism, right? You know, this idea that like when you sign a record deal, there is a there is an inherent like belief that this is going to lead to some type of financial payoff, not just for you, but for your family circumstances, for the future, right?
Mhm.
But what we're talking about is art,
Yeah,
most at its most basic, right? Now, not every artist gets the opportunity to be at tables where they're going to be offered a. But I think every artist at some point is trying to figure out, well, how can this sustain me
yeah,
financially? And if so, if not, then does that mean I have to give it? I have to give it up, right? That means I have to stop it because at some point you have to be serious and find
yeah,
something that's going to lead to those things. But I feel like that's the misnomer, right? Like we're trained to believe that that's what we need to be aiming for. But like the fact is, like art should ultimately be about creating message, like pieces of work with messages of value that like can spark conversations like
yeah,
this, can mean something to just a handful of people, and that's it. Right? Like you know,
yeah,
that's all it needs to be,
yeah.
right? Uh,
Exactly.
yeah, man. Instead, we're taught to believe that like, oh, I didn't get enough people to like that, or it's like, oh, I only got like, 1,200 views on that video,
Yeah,
right? But those are all vanity things. That has nothing to
of
do
course.
with the real impact that it's
Yeah,
had, you know.
yeah. I mean, like I was when we were in I think we were in the Bay Area, and this teacher there, I forget his name, had used my butterflies fly by um to have a conversation with his students, and then they had like he created a worksheet for them based on the lyrics and the video footage, right? And I was like, damn, and I mean I've done that a few times elsewhere, but I have never created like a worksheet from it. It was just like a part of a conversation. It's almost feel like we don't see the bigger possibilities a lot of the time, right? Like other people will come and they're like, yo, I really want to have young people listen to a story. Yeah, let them listen to this rhyme, and let me give them the lyrics.
Yeah, yeah,
Let them have the visuals of that moment in time that's captured in the song. And I was like, yo, this is and to such an extent that I almost like now in terms of them we're talking about the hip hop museum there at the house, right? To have like the front section be a museum of the work that we've done, but also that like I this new book that I put out, Making a Black Noise, which is like 10 years, like a bit more than 10 years, but like from the start of breaking through to like the first election.
yeah.
And like in between that is all these activities, like the story of butterflies fly by in 1985. There's like the killing of Ashley Carril and Anton Franz, and I've written about a lot of this. So I'm like, yeah, we actually have video footage that could run on screens, that puts the,
Mhm.
the timeline like
Yeah,
for young people in front of us. And so when that guy did that with those kids, I was like, yo, this is what whenever people talk about hip hop cultural education, like that's what they're talking about. That's how do you place the examples in front of young people of
yeah, 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 yeah,
other
yeah.
young people that have, because when I was speaking to them, they were like, yeah, but that was back in the day. How do we even like change anything? I was like, yo, I was like, we were your age. Like this is, because they don't realize the power they
Yo,
have.
I had a kid because I thought it was like the second to last day of classes this school year. I was a lot. Wasn't teaching the class, but was there a lot. I had to cover that day. That's right. And I was telling him about the summer coming up and everything that's going on. I'm like, yeah, I'm just waiting for the school year to end because I'm going to go to like 26 Federal Plaza, where they're doing the immigrant watch. And it's like I just got to. I'm waiting till I can get arrested. And they're like, arrested. Like some kids are like, arrested? What do you mean arrested? And then this one kid is like, arrested? Like what? Why? Wait. So I explained to him, and it's like, well, I mean, I don't know what trouble could happen. I know that people are being disappeared. I know that like they are requesting bodies to be down there to maybe help, you know, be around these people as ICE tries to take them, or just to watch the cops and be. And then the kid was like, "Why would you do that? Why not just stay home and watch TV?"
Oh,
Oh man, I I didn't rip him a new one, but the rage was felt, right? Because obviously I knew he was just a kid, but there was another teacher who was walking by in the room and he like looked at me like,
yeah,
God. But also we're talking about a 15-year-old kid, right? It's like with a level of privilege. Sure, he's had his own challenges, but when you grow up in the United States at this point, like, be very easy not to understand that like democracy is extremely fragile
yeah,
and must be continually fought for. Like it's only now that these like we're in a time where Americans have really taken for granted. I mean, a lot of stuff's happening underneath the surface. That like if you're knowledgeable, you realize how democratic and free is this country really. But now everyone's like, wait a minute, this isn't free, right? So it's like kind of like we got to fight for this.
yeah,
I was thinking about what you guys saying about what would be interesting is if we use this with young people, well then what are the lessons and like the takeaways? And I think for me it is like obviously like it's almost like a dream journal or getting kids to think about what their dream is for the future. But also I think it's key when I think about someone who I think a lot of the problems with people who may succumb to the dark side are are those who like feel like they they were deserved something that they never got.
mm,
Right?
yeah,
There's like this like group of people who are like, and it's not their fault.
yeah,
It's someone else's fault.
mm,
So, and I feel like there's a difference between dreaming and obsession. So it's like not only getting young people to think about what your dream is, but also to the social emotional capacities to be able to handle a dream like healthily, right?
yeah,
And not veer into obsession, where it's like, what balance does that have in the rest of your world? Like, it's like, it's a healthy thing at this point? And if it doesn't come to fruition the way you initially intended, is that a failure?
yeah,
And like and if it's a failure, does it hold you back? Like think about preparing kids around the conversation of dreams, giving them the tools to dream and to verbalize their dreams, but also it's like the emotional capabilities to also understand like shit doesn't always work out, and that's
yeah.
okay too. Like
And there's a there's a tangible example of the I have a dream. You know?
yeah,
And that's the thing of the fluidity of it. Like I almost feel like too often it's very rigid. It's too rigid for it to really be a dream because it's like the dream state in itself. It's like very flowing. It's ever changing and people have this idea that it has to be like this. And in the process of like holding on to this one thing, there's all this other possibilities that just go wasted, right?
I have a line where it's like, I dream of a world where bigotry and hatred isn't lurking behind the veil of infallible religion.
Hmm.
It's like the idea of dogma has always bothered me. Like
Hmm.
I grew up in a faith where it's like dogma is not the same as faith, right? Like faith is ever changing, ever like, it's like you have to sit there and like not know if it's the real thing, but you practice. Anyways, realize when where realizing you're wrong is an opportunity to change, a personal decision to embrace revision,
Hmm.
right? Like, and like I feel like ultimately my dream has always been aware that like okay, it's okay to be wrong. You're
Yeah.
gonna be wrong, but at what point do you allow yourself to like really reflect on those and then change, like revise things, like even if that means like I remember having a student once in my class, and like the first time that I had developed the capacity that I did something that really offended the student or hurt the student's feelings, and rather than be the teacher who's like, oh, you don't question the teacher, like it's like go to the principal's office or whatever, it's like sitting there and being like, yo, I'm really sorry that like I said that.
Mhm.
You know, and not being like, I'm sorry that your feelings were hurt, right? You know, it's like, no, I'm sorry that my actions like
Yeah.
had this impact on you negatively. Like, and that's something I'm gonna have to sit with and like work on and be better at. And me doing that in real time with the student, I think is a lesson for the student too, right?
Yeah,
You know, and it's like, yeah, I don't know everything.
exactly.
Especially when this happened when I was like probably like 25, 26 years old, right? And to
Mhm.
that like 13, 14-year-old kid, perhaps they may have seemed like an all knowing adult, but like luckily at the right teaching mentors who got me to realize it's like, actually, no, you don't know everything. And like,
Mm.
if you can bring young people into your processes, in your pedagogy, and let them see that, you know, it's funny. Like the reason this is even about dreams is the producer is a former student, kind of like co-teacher of mine, Adi from in Medan, Indonesia,
Mm.
right? And I worked with him a couple of summers back to back during this program. So I can preach when given an opportunity to work with students. Right? I get very like motivational. So when I sent him the sample and he sent me the beat, he named it Far's Dream, and it originally had a sample of the Martin Luther King "I Have a Dream" speech at the beginning of the
Oh.
track. But I was like, oh, that's corny, man. I don't want that. I was like, take that shit out. Take that shit out. But I listened to him because he heard Far's Dream. So I was like, oh, wait a minute. What is my dream?
Yeah.
Right? I was like, okay, you feel like this has to be about my dream. Then I was like, you know, there we go, right? Like, that's what I had to express about that. You know what I mean? It's like, now, and, you know, and I've always said that, like, you know, my mom always said that my only inheritance would be my education and faith.
Ah,
Right?
wow.
Because they weren't wealthy people,
Yeah.
you know, and like all they did was they invested as much as they could into my education, and she made sure that I had a sense of faith and like in the sense that like you know there's a reason for everything, you
Mhm.
know, and that you better be doing something good with your gifts because if not they
Yeah.
will be taken away, right?
Yep. Sounds like most more.
Right, right. Uh, so wait, what do you want to? How do you see this happening? What do you want to do? What do you like? Do you want to put a curriculum together? Do you want to? Are you going to
Yeah.
edit this video?
I
Like,
think I think maybe the two of those, like the conversation about how to, have something, um, have this conversation with young people and
mm,
connect with the song, you know, and like what are your dreams that you see for yourself, and like because a lot of times kids have like five or six, or more, and
or
then
none,
oh, choose one, and you're
or
like,
none.
yeah, that's true. Also, none. Or not,
You-
not that a lot of them have like the kids I come across, like after they hear everyone else, they're like, actually, it takes a while. And so
yeah,
I try not to like, yo, tell me right now, like, yo, okay, we'll go around. And you find that it's never just like, which is dope because it's never just one, you know. But like to first of all, tell them choose one is like that's one of the biggest mistakes a lot of people make, right? And then like what I've what I've also seen, I'm lucky to to experience is to like be with them enough time for them to be like, I actually like doing this, and it'd be dope if I can tie what I like to where the streamers go. You know
mm,
what I mean? So I can be happy doing it and not like chase something that like I know myself. I'm not gonna. That's not what I like doing. You know what I mean? So it's like, and like exactly like you say about being present as a person that's older to be open enough to be like, yo, maybe this. I don't know if this is, but from what I see, this is like what I get from like being around you. This is what I see your strong points and what you like doing. But like that doesn't mean that's the direction you have to go. Maybe there's something you can learn in another
yeah,
direction. Like
yeah,
if you look at even Charlie, for example, like, when I met him, he was like breaking, popping, that's it. And
yeah,
then like slowly go, oh shit, okay, check it out. You know, beat rhyming, beat making. It's like, and then that's the other plus about hip hop is like all of these elements that are possibilities, and they're not only
Mm.
just the elements, but things connected to the elements, like that are even more possibilities. So I like that fluidity of it. With
I'm going to send you a chapter from my grad school advisor, Daniel Banks,
uh-huh.
which draws, it's an article that basically draws a direct connection between, um, what is it, the multi mode, oh my God, Howard Gardner's learning. What is it? What is the name of Gardner's things? Howard Gardner. Oh, theory of multiple intelligences,
Oh, okay.
right? And like Gardner defined the different intelligences. Well, my advisor wrote an article basically saying, well, if you see when he was developing it, he was developing it during the 70s.
Uh,
So he was actually studying the hip hop generation. Like he
uh,
was studying a generation of people who are growing up with multiple intelligences. Some were more kinesthetic, some were more like some were more musical, some were more like. But that in hip hop is the ideal form because it gives you multiple paths
yeah.
to learn, right, and to grow and self actualize.
Right.
Um, okay. Do you want to revisit this video and like I don't know? Is
Yeah,
this
not definitely, but also I think like I like the idea of like how do we put something together that's like a teaching module type of
like a
thing.
lesson plan, like maybe
Yeah,
a unit or something?
yeah,
Okay.
that for one. I think I like the idea of maybe finding other people who have like to join us in this conversation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Then maybe chop it up a bit further. Um, yeah, because that would be dope to tie to the song of maybe like a period of a month or even more. There
yeah,
might be people that be like, "Yo, count me in." I want to be part of the conversation. Someone that feels what we're talking about. That would be dope just to get out. And it doesn't have to be hip hop related. It can be someone that's not necessarily.
no, I'm with it. I feel it. I want to revisit. I'll watch the video. I mean, we talked about a lot, and a lot's good, but I think a lot could be tangential to what we
Oh,
think this is, right? It's like the idea of like if it's some type of unit plan or some type of like, then like what in our discussion really touch upon that, so that the next time we get together, whether it's us two or us and a handful, we have like
oh,
kind of guided questions
yeah,
that are focused on getting us in that direction,
yeah,
right? And yeah, so it's like I think about backwards planning. Like if after 1 to 5 lessons or however many lessons, like what do young people walk away with? It's almost like, and I do this already with students. Like it's a vision board,
oh,
right? Or it's like or whatever that is. Like they walk away with a statement of what their dream is for their future, right?
oh,
And like when I have them do vision boards, there's usually multiple slides, right? And the slides, like sure, it may be as concrete as I want to in 5 years have graduated from college. I want to be doing this, like whatever those concrete things are. But sometimes it's more like even more cerebral, like getting like like uh, let me think about that. That would be dope. I think or something like that, right? I
no,
also
no,
like the idea, like when we talk about revision, what they create could be in a school year. I always want to create something where like sometimes you're like, okay, we're finished with that, we're done with it. But I feel like this type of thing is where maybe they revisit it multiple times in a school year and they're constantly revising it because now like they more understanding or more
yeah,
life experience, so like their dream's gonna change,
yeah,
you know and it's okay for it to change. Like I
yeah,
feel like one of the things that my students really, my first students, because I was really trying to make music a career, is I remember like 3 or 4 times leaving a school that I'd been at for multiple years and me telling them like before even the second semester, hey guys, I got some news, I'm leaving. And the entire day like, oh, like, oh my God, why are you doing this? But for me, I think it was important that I always wanted to create closure. Like, and I wanted them to know, understand, like, no, I've got dreams too,
Yeah,
right? And like, I'm not saying that like being here isn't fulfilling, but I know for me to go where I want to go dream wise, I
yeah,
need to move away from here. And I think that that was important for them too. Like I look at a lot of my young people who are like live that life
yeah,
because I hope maybe it's because I showed them it's okay to have a dream and like
yeah,
move
exactly.
on.
I mean, there's been instances like when I was teaching, I remember clearly just before I left, like asking them that question, like, what would you, my reality, like, what would you do if you're confronted with
Yeah,
passion versus like staying in a job that you like but you're not happy? They were like, yeah, I'd rather take the. And a lot of them were like straight up, like, I'd rather take the pay. Like, you don't know if
yeah,
you're going to get paid. you
yeah,
know. And
yeah.
then like years later, this kid is like, yo, we watched you do what you love. Like we saw you on TV, we saw you in the newspaper. We're like, yo, that was a bigger example than if you had to just stay being a teacher. I was like, damn, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So you know,
Okay, what what's the time frame? What do we want to do here? Because I think what I'm gonna do is I'll make a little like lesson plan
hmm
thing and I'll share it with you,
yeah,
right? I like the idea of it being multiple sessions, not many, maybe just like three, right?
hmm
So it's some type of intro session where it's like the song and then developing like core questions with the student. And the second one is they're kind of working and pulling the document together or whatever. And then that can be a multiple if they need it. But then like the last one is them sharing back with their classmates or with their group. It's like what is their dream, right?
yeah,
You know, um, like I know you're moving on to another song at some point, but like, what are you trying to put up online,
yeah,
and how? What is that looking like?
yeah.
Does that matter?
No, it does. I want to spend enough time to like really get the conversation going. Like, so the song, the video. Maybe I don't know if you want to select some of the clips from this somehow, throw the music, you know, over the background and like just feed this conversation with other people. Um, and like I have a mailing list that I'll send it out through. So I think what I'll do is I'll while you're putting the the lesson plan idea together, I'll put together a definite date uh, timeline
Okay.
of what
Put a
what
timeline, and like it could be even as easy as like reaction videos,
yeah.
right? Like it's like YouTube does all the time. So if you get together people, it's like you could easily we get them on Zoom, play the music video for them, and like in real time just have them react,
Yeah,
and like who knows what would come of that.
yeah,
Um, Okay. Well, let me know. I'll get started on. I mean, I've got time this week, so I'll just get started on like kind of like like a general like lesson plan structure, and then send it your way, and then we can see what we want
yeah,
to do next. But like I say, I'm available. I have no work right now. It's a little scary, but it's also like if I don't leave the house, I don't
uh,
spend money. But this was crazy. You can leave the house and spend lots of money. This morning, my wife and I started a new routine. We're gonna go for walks like at 6:30 in the morning, right before she has to go. Like, so we went out, had a great walk. It's humid, got lots of steps in. Then we went to our coffee shop. We're like, oh, we were out. Why don't we get a couple of smoothies? Motherfucker, the smoothies, two smoothies cost like $28. I was,
exactly.
I was like, how did we do? We just walked and did something free that fulfilled us, but we ended up spending $28.
Yeah,
So it's like not just leaving the house. Like, I can't leave the house at all. I gotta just stay in here. All right. So I'll work on a lesson plan and not spend any
okay,
money.
cool.
Yeah.
No, but all right. Yeah, I'll let's what was today? Maybe by Friday we can get if we
Yeah.
can meet by Friday just to check where we're at.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, my goal is gonna be to watch this video again and like maybe highlight some parts that I feel like are resonant,
Mhm.
and then the lesson plan,
Okay,
and then we'll get it up on Friday and figure out what the next steps are.
cool.
Okay.
So,
All right, man.
Sure, man.
Peace, brother. Good talking, man. We'll talk soon.
All right, keep going.